Welcome into a brand new Jock Market Power Hour for this week's RBC Heritage. I'm Rick Gaiman. That right there, Joe Idoni. Joe, good to see you. Good to see you.
Good to see you, buddy. Happy to get right back on the wagon here this week. You know, Rick, it was kind of nice to not have like a full letdown the week after Masters Week. We obviously get a huge stacked field once again, so it's nice to sort of let us down easy heading into next week's team event. So it's awesome course. Always look forward to it every year. Just an awkward kind of scheduling spot for it, right?
Just a lot of big events in a row with more coming. And yes. Yeah. I mean, I think what they obviously had to do was figure out the schedule on the fly, and the elevated event thing kind of happened later in the game than they probably would have liked. So yeah, it makes for a little bit of an awkward schedule. I think they'll get it fixed for next year. We're already seeing signs of that. But yeah, Jordan Spieth said it's a lot of golf right out of the gate.
Yeah, he talked about it, and this event's kind of always in this spot traditionally, and it still normally will get a good field, but stark contrast in terms of what the course relinquishes in terms of player skill sets, from the green surfaces to the fairways. It couldn't be much different than Augusta National, sort of on the heels of the biggest event of the season. But everyone's here, with the exception of a few guys, Rory and Hideki. We get everyone right back at it this week and teeing off tomorrow morning.
Yeah, that's right. And I do love as you mentioned, just like the contrast of Harbor Town to Augusta National and the skill sets, and these guys getting kind of thrown right into it the week after. Like, I think that's pretty cool, and is going to make for a pretty interesting event. So we are here in the Jock Market. We are playing Stock Market DFS. There is an IPO that's open right now where you can bid on shares of golfers, and then based on their final finishing position, you get these guaranteed payouts, and you can obviously make money per share. You could lose money per share as well, but you're just trying to find out who is going to beat their expectation. If you haven't gotten involved yet, the code you're looking for is POWER. There's a link in the description. Joe, one of the big things that we debuted last week was the props side of things. So now there are golfer props available on Jock Market. Were you able to partake in any of the prop side of things last week?
Absolutely hit and miss. I was all over sort of the Amen corner props, and the majority of them went right. I think I got Rory wrong. There were a couple of late flubs on 13 where I was hoping for a birdie or a par and ended up getting bogey, but was a ton of fun. Obviously, the make the cut parlays, we had Tiger in there and some other guys, which were fun, and a lot of them are right back at it this week. We have round one strokes pick 'em action, round one birdies are better, cuts made. There's actually some nice names in the cuts made category. I'm sure we'll talk about it here in a second.
Yeah, so usually you can get cuts made is tough, right? And for the books or for the prop sites, they're trying to find the guys that are like 50-50 to make the cut. So you're not going to get like a Scotty Scheffler to make the cut situation or a John Rahm to make the cut situation. But I do feel like sometimes the pendulum swings a little bit too far, and it's like, I don't know, this amateur who has never played before to make the cut. You know what I mean? Like there's a balance there that if you can strike it, it makes it really, really compelling.
Yeah, and we got some nice ones this week, so it should be fun.
Awesome. So again, the code you're looking for is POWER. There's a link in the description. Joe, before we dive too deep into this week, I will show everybody the results from last week to kind of put this into a more concrete example. So John Rahm last Wednesday night sold for $10 per share in IPO. Got the full payout, $25 a share. So that's a $15 profit per share. Guess what? Brooks Koepka, who finished tied for second, also got a $15 per share profit because he went from $5 in the IPO to $20 in the payout. And guess what? Phil Mickelson, the big winner of the week, $15.82 per share of profit because he sold last Wednesday at $2.18. His tie for second got him an $18 per share payout. So that's the big guys at the top. And my goodness, was there some big movement.
Unbelievable stuff from Phil. It was a pleasure to sort of watch that take place. But yeah, you mentioned it. Brooks, last week I had the big outright ticket, ended up letting me down, but also was able to get shares in the jock market. So $5 IPO, cash out for 20. We're happy with that every day of the week, buddy.
Jordan Spieth 787 to 16. Russell Henley had himself a good week, 385 to 14. Patrick Reed 436 to 13. So those are the winners there. And then just to kind of show you, the most expensive golfer was Scotty Scheffler, $11.95 per share. He sold, or he finished at $10.50. So you lost $1.45 per share on Scotty. You lost 30 cents per share on Patrick Cantlay. But there are obviously ways. This is a game, I think, Joe, that allows you to kind of mitigate risk a little bit, right? You can build a portfolio, which is always helpful because you can have as many or as few shares of as many golfers or as few golfers as you want. And you can
Sure.
also, if something does go sideways and Scotty Scheffler finishes 14th, like, you're not going to get killed on that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you had a rare instance last week where was Rory the highest IPO or second
Oh, you
highest?
know what? I honestly forgot about Rory. So he was 1177. He was the second highest IPO.
Okay, so that is obviously the instance where you get totally burned. But you look there, and if you negate Rory, the other four guys in the top five, if you had all four of them, would have returned you a profit. It look, I don't think anybody saw it coming. You were the one person I heard all week that anticipated struggles out of Rory McIlroy, particularly in the first round. But with the good weather wave, it's just one of those things that it was hard to imagine him totally missing the cut with all the circumstances in play. But it happens. But like we had talked about, you can almost like take all the big three if you want. You don't have to choose. If you want Scotty, Rory, and Rom last week, you have the opportunity in jock market to grab all three. Obviously, Rom got the big payday. Scotty broke even, and Rory lost you money. But assuming Rory were able to like top 20 that event, you would have made money having the same amount of shares on all three players.
Yeah, I think this is something that we probably, I mean, we have a show that's live and, it's up against a timer and there's a lot of logistics here, but I would like to see a lot of like jock market content, almost in terms of portfolio construction, Joe, right?
Mhm.
Where if it's, hey, it's, having these two golfers who are super high risk, but offsetting it with this golfer, and what are the optimal ways to kind of build these portfolios? Because now you can short as well. So you really can take a bunch of different stands in this format that you can't really take in other formats. If you're playing on just a DFS site, it's, hey, these six golfers under 50K or whatever, and that's it.
Sure.
If you're putting in an outright wager, it's one finishing position that matters, right? So there really are, I imagine, like an infinite amount of combinations that you could do to build portfolios in the jock market. And I wonder how much like people are doing that. Like, I would like to see that research somewhere. I would like to see that content.
Absolutely. I wonder how much of it, like you are kind of alluding to, is a numbers game, right? And just playing, ignoring the players and picking out certain target prices and values. But the other part of me thinks like you still have to know what you're talking about. Like you had made some great points about Rory potentially struggling. We both saw a great week out of Brooks Koepka. So you still have to take your stands and kind of be right on them more often than you're wrong. And that's ultimately how you're going to build up the biggest bankroll and portfolio rollover sort of week after week. But you're right. I think there's something too, like kind of looking at some of the analytics on the different price ranges. And maybe it's something that we can do kind of as the season wraps up and in the off season. Now that we have like 3 full years worth of data from every single market, we can kind of look to isolate some of those target ranges and see how they've been performing.
Yeah, we do have every cash market ever played in the jock market, which goes back to, I want to say it's like the 2020 Tour Championship or something, maybe even before that, honestly, maybe in the summer of 2020. So yeah, a lot of information and a lot of data available. Okay, turning our attention to this week, we have argued, or at least we have mentioned, the comparisons and contrasting Augusta National to Harbour Town. So let's talk through it a little bit here. Obviously, precision over power
Yeah.
accuracy and kind of finesse and just small greens, just an opportunity to play a little bit different style of golf around here.
I could argue a totally different style of
Mhm.
golf, right? You're clubbing down in a number of holes here. You've got dog legs, you've got water coming into play in some instances. Like you had mentioned, I think the second tiniest greens on tour versus just the contrast of like what you're looking at off the tee is totally different here. Like here, you're looking to pick out like a very specific target, and there's not much room for error. It really rewards accuracy and precision, like you were alluding to. I mean, there were some of those tee shots, like even in the final group, I'm thinking back up to like Rahm and Kepka. Some of those balls that they hit that they got away with at Augusta are gone here. Like
Mhm.
some of those big giant, like you cannot hit those shots around Harbor Town and have any success, or you're going to have an early plane back home on Friday afternoon.
Yeah, there's probably going to be guys in this field who hit zero drivers this week, right?
Yeah.
Just like, or maybe one or two around, but just like you don't have to. And you just got to play to the right side, the correct side of fairways, not necessarily always the right side, the correct side of fairways, the correct angles into greens and give yourself enough looks. I mean, and it's not even, we saw, I think Bryson was such a really great use case when he came back and was bulked up. And I think it was Colonial, which is a kind of more of a positional golf course, and,
Yes.
and he was still just able to drive it over the trees, right? And it was
Mhm.
just like the trees were far enough away where he was able to take all of that out. You can't even Bryson this play. Like you
Yeah.
can't even do that. It's not an option. So everybody ends up playing from similar positions, and then it turns into, I feel like, a second shot contest or a fairway through green contest.
Yeah, totally agree. I was wondering, I was curious, and I was going to ask you, I was thinking about asking you this all week. If you have looked into or have any data on people that played all 4 rounds at the Masters and how they perform coming here. Obviously, we are in a little bit different circumstance because we get more big names inserted into the flux this week. But how have guys who have been basically in strict contention for 72 holes at Augusta shown up here on a very different? Are they performing below their baseline, would you say, on average, or are we seeing things about even?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I would have to run the numbers on that, but I think there is something to be said about the exhaustion of a week like last week, right? And
Sure.
we heard. I mean, again, I'll go back to it. We heard Jordan Spieth talking about it like during, or excuse me, like before the week started last week, and they've played a ton of. I mean, match play was just a couple of weeks. I mean, we've just been on a stretch of a ton of big time events, and there hasn't been a place for anybody to catch some rest. So, are you going to treat those guys a little bit differently tonight? The guys that were in it for 4 full days?
I kind of think so. That's why I was curious if there's any data to back it up. But I think that could narrative could actually pose a real threat to some of those guys who were just the amount of focus, and you're pouring everything into Masters Week, right? You're there for 4 consecutive days, grinding that place out. Weather draws, delays, like difficult conditions from nice to crappy. And just I imagine like if you're in, say, the top 15, like your heart and soul is so focused around that week of the year. And then you have to show up kind of on a short prep week, a little bit of a hangover maybe from having like just leaving the Super Bowl and showing up here on a totally different course. Like I think about last week or last year as I hit Spieth here last year, and I remember one of my reasons for it was like I kind of liked that he had such a disappointing miscut because he had a terrible miscut on Friday of the Masters last year that was such a letdown. And I actually kind of liked him more at the Heritage because he didn't play the full tournament in contention than I would have if he had played 72 holes in like top 5 like he did last week. I don't know if that makes sense to everyone, but that's kind of the angle that I think I'm sort of taking with a lot of the players this week.
I remember having Patrick Cantlay last year, and the weakest playoff performance I've ever seen. Hit the fairway, whiff one into the bunker,
Terrible
horrible
bunker
bunker
shot.
shot,
Yeah.
and just never gave himself just never sniffed a
Yeah.
chance in that playoff. I
And
just
it was classic Spieth. I think he maybe had 4 or 5 chip ins on the week. Like it was
ah
a classic Spiethian win, like where he
yeah.
lost strokes putting. It was
Yeah.
insane.
I was holding a Cantlay ticket going, this is absolutely going to burn. Like, there's
Yeah.
no chance, just zero chance. All right, let's play bullish or bear. So, this is Joe and I's opportunity to take a stand on 4 different golfers. And we got some big names here. So, we've got some big names in bullish or bearish, and we're going to start with that guy who just donned a brand new garment last Sunday, John Rahm. We have his fair value tonight at $9.78. So that basically is a calculation that looks at how often he's going to win and get the full $25 per share payout, how often he's going to miss the cut, get $1, and everything in between, and says his fair value is $9.78. So that asks John Rahm to finish 13th or better. Joe, are you bullish or bearish on the man?
Man, if I think I'm going to give that take that I just gave, I have to say bearish. It scares the life out of me. I don't know anything that can really slow this. I mean, 6 out of his last 13 worldwide events is outrageous. He's returned you a profit in 7 of the last 10 jock market contests that he's played in, all while an average IPO price of $10.64, which is ludicrous to think of. His average payout over the last 10 starts has been $15.84. Like, it doesn't seem like anything slowing this guy down, but maybe this is the week that like he just takes a deep breath and maybe isn't all there mentally as he's been so often this season. It would only make sense, and I think we could forgive him for it pretty easily. I'm going to reluctantly and quietly say bearish.
Yeah, we'll just whisper bearish here. I think even if you just remove the emotional toll, the obligations of being the Masters champion, just remove all of that. The thing that John Rahm does it so well to separate himself is, one, off the tee. I mean, we saw the graphics all week long I swear every time they showed that whole overlay of all the drives, his was always the longest and straightest. Every single one.
Unbelievable, right?
Every single one. It was unreal. And that's where he separates himself. He also separates himself. He's like the best player in the world. He separates himself a lot of places, but he also does it around the greens, which this is not. So when you're John Rahm, you want really difficult areas around the green, right? You want Augusta National, you want Muirfield Village, because you have all of the shots. When everything is straightforward, you don't get to separate yourself there. So I actually think that there are a couple of places that he doesn't get to accentuate his amazing skills and also all the stuff that you talked about. So yeah, listen, if John Rahm finishes tied for 10th or wins the golf tournament, hat tip, he can have another one. But feels like a little bit of a bearish opportunity for us.
Yep, I agree. That's a good point you made on the around the green stuff, because naturally in my mind, I think small greens, lower greens in regulation, around the green is going to be of more importance, but they're not difficult shots around the green, which levels it. Like, I can remember Stuart Sink was just putting everything from off the green here. Like, that's how easy it is. So you really want the guys who are good around the green in difficult circumstances, because that's where they can showcase their skill set the best.
Yeah, so we might see more shots, like more frequent shots from around the green, but they're all just pretty straightforward. They're all just like, okay, even the worst guys can get up and down. This guy's got a pretty good short game as well. Justin Thomas, who I find to be just one of the most fascinating golfers in the field this week. He gets a lot of different opinions. $7.64 is the fair value that we have on him. 19th or better for JT. So are you bullish or bearish on Justin?
I actually think I'm bullish. It's nothing stat wise that's going to indicate that he's due for a bounce back. It's just more of a gut feel thing. It's kind of the thing that I likened to with Spieth last year at this event. Horrible Friday. Everything's looking great for a made cut. Get on to the weekend. He even said so with the AirPod in his ear. And
as soon as that came out of his mouth, I knew it was over.
Next thing you know, we're on to Heritage. So maybe an opportunity for him to sort of bounce back here, but he's kind of been the exact opposite of Rahm in terms of he's lost 7 of his last 10. He's averaging losing you $1.57 per contest. I do think that this is a spot that I kind of think is a little bit like Valspar maybe, and that he can maybe find something here and work some of that around the green magic and ball striking. So I think this is a spot to sort of buy low. So I'll say bullish.
Yeah, I'm bullish as well. I think the poor play has been exaggerated when it comes to Justin Thomas. Has he been A top 3 player in the world? No.
No,
Has he been like a top 10 player in the world? Yeah, sure,
probably.
absolutely, probably, right? I mean, he's driving it well. He is his second shots are great. He has an awesome short game. The putter's horrible. Whatever. That's hasn't changed in the last couple of years. And that miscut at the Masters was like a 5-hole stretch.
Yeah.
Um that I'm willing to give him a little bit of some slack on. And I also, for whatever it's worth, this dude's got to be like one of the hungriest guys out there, right? I mean,
Hmm.
he is watching all of his peers rattle off these victories and he is not getting enough of them. And I feel like it's about to snap back at some point.
Yep, I agree.
Justin Thomas, bullish for me. Let's go Terrell Hatton, $7.13 per share. His fair value position would be about 21st or better. Another interesting one here. I'm not even sure where I necessarily stand here, Joe. Terrell Hatton, bullish or bearish?
I'm bullish. I think that this is just a good spot for Tyrrell Hatton. I think this is a course that, I don't know, in my opinion, elevated field or not, a lot of these guys I think are obligated to be here this week. I think Tyrrell Hatton would be here regardless, just because he likes this place. Almost won it in 2020, excuse me. But he had a decent performance at the Masters. It's never been a spot for him. He's gained over 18 strokes on the field in his last 3 times out at Harbor Town. The guy hasn't lost strokes ball striking. You have it there in his last 12 worldwide starts. Pretty unbelievable run right now with his irons. 3 of those 7 he's gained like over 8.5. So he's had really, really good performances with his iron play. 3 bad putting weeks in a row, which is uncommon. I don't think he's a bad putter. I actually think he's a pretty good putter. In fact, he's averaged gaining over 2 strokes on the field putting at Harbor Town throughout his career. So I think it's a spot where he can bounce that stat back and gain a little bit with the putter. If he keeps hitting his irons great, I'll be bullish.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, but for the sake of conversation, I'll take the other side of things here. I will point to while he has still gained off the tee and while he has still gained on approach, it has not been nearly as sharp as we saw at the Players and the Arnold Palmer and in Phoenix. The 3 consecutive losing weeks with the putter, that's always tough for me. I always give guys the benefit of the doubt that they will get back to their baseline, but sometimes they don't. They don't
Yeah.
always, right? Which obviously, if he loses a stroke or 2 with the putter, he's got to be a little bit better in other places. I think he's generally a positive play, but I do have worries about Terrell this week. So it will truly be price dependent for
Yep.
me when we get to that point of the show here in a couple of minutes.
That makes sense. I get it with the putter. I think 2 of those 3 though are weird. Like the Masters
Yeah.
is a weird putting one where we see
Yeah.
guys putt really
Hard.
well there and really bad there.
It's really
It's
hard.
it's really hard. And the match play also, like looking at stroke, like you're putting differently. Sometimes you're just trying to hole one from 35 feet and you're not going to leave it short. So 2
Yeah.
weird putting weeks in there. I'm going to give him a little bit of breathing room.
Yeah, you're right. I honestly think he's a great like discussion point because of everything. It's just you could argue back and forth all day. Jordan Spieth is our final golfer here. 850 is the fair value for tonight. That's 16th or better. I'll just run with this and kind of get out of the way. Bullish. I mean, I don't know. You look at some of the projected ownerships for fantasy this week, and what is the argument against Jordan Spieth that he said he was tired? Like, I mean, the metrics are great. He won this place without even putting. He's playing better now than he was last year. I mean, this is like. I'm not the guy who's like, oh, this is an absolute smash spot, but like, I don't understand what what is the argument against him?
Yeah, there really is. And he's playing fantastic. He's been on a really good run of good finishes. And it just seems like the only thing that he hasn't done within this run is get that win, which we're not necessarily asking for at this price point. I mean, what is his fair value? I think he's a little bit higher than that, but it's what asking him to finish like essentially 26th this week.
Yeah.
Is that it?
So his fair value is, well, he's already okay. So let's say he goes for $9 a share. That would be 14th. If he goes for 850, that would be 16th. So
Okay.
something.
He's about even money to top 20 across the sports books this week. I'll say bearish just for the sake of that, because I think he's already sort of inflated too much. But if we're going off the fair value projection in the 630s, of course, I'll be bullish. I think he just spoke into a microphone what a lot of players are thinking and feeling right now. And because he's the one that stepped up and said it, we're going to knock him for it. But I think the same could be said for the majority of these guys at the top end of the board, that they are a little exhausted. They are a little tired. They are looking for a week off, and they've got to go back out there, and poor guys got to play 72 more holes of golf.
All right. The prices are getting very mature. Things are coming in hot and heavy. We've got about 19 minutes to go until this IPO closes. And if you want to get involved, we have a promo code for you for a deposit bonus. It's POWER, and there's a link in the description. Joe, here is the first look at the live pricing and the big board. Patrick Cantlay leads the way, $9.26. He is the third pre-ranked golfer. So Rahm, Scotty, then Patrick Cantlay. Small loser at the Masters, small loser at the Players, 2 wins before that, but his history around this golf course is pristine. So I think that is what is driving the early run on Patrick Cantlay.
Absolutely. Course history, great fit for him as well. And in current form, he checks all 3 of those boxes. I have no concerns that a little bit of controversy and some questions in the media are going to negatively impact this guy. He's just not that type of guy. So I doubt he cares any at all about it. And I expect him to go off. I think of the guys at the top, and this is crazy to say with Rahm and Scheffler, but I feel like his floor is maybe the highest. Like, I feel like he's a very, very safe option to like top 13 or 14 this week.
He's been like the best since he got his new clubs all set up. He's like been the second best ball striker in the world behind Scotty Scheffler. Like, really? I mean, he's just dialed. He's just dialed. Yeah. Say what you will about pace of play or how many times he stomps his feet. Like the dude's dialed. Here's Jon Rahm. We've talked about him, 907 right now. So he's $71 or 71 cents short of his fair value. Whole get there shortly. Here's Scotty Scheffler. Haven't talked about him yet. 901. His fair value is 974. Small loss at the Masters. Obviously, the win at the Players, a winner in terms of ROI at API. I mean, even his losses are just small losses, and then he piles up victories here. So is Scotty getting lumped into like the Jon Rahm camp that, hey, this might not be as good of a spot for him as other places?
I don't know. I'm curious on Scotty. I've kind of thought about it from both sides, and I know you were all over it, and like he was at one point like 7th in the tournament and had his worst putting round of his career. So he just didn't have it going with the putter. I think it goes all the way back to practice rounds. I worry if there's still question marks there, but I mean, 4 of his last 6 starts gaining over 10 strokes ball striking. The guy just doesn't really hit 2 consecutive bad shots. Like, it feels like he's always in a position to get himself back into the hole, and almost all the time does. It's going to come down to the putter, which I have some concerns about, but I'm kind of in a I don't really know mode with Scotty this week, so I'll probably end up just passing and going on to other guys. Where are you at?
I am very much price dependent. I do think, Scotty is such a good driver, and I think he's longer than people realize. He doesn't get lumped into the bombers, but he's very good drive. I do worry that part does get a little bit subdued, but he is legitimately so solid throughout everything that it's, again, you talk about guys with high floors. It's hard to believe Scotty's not going to be in the mix come Sunday.
Yeah.
I'll open this up here for you because there's a big gap after those 3, and it's Morikawa, Spieth, Cam Young, Victor Hovland, Sungjae Im in that $7 range. Is there a name or names here that you'd like to target the most?
I like Victor. Listen, I'm out on Cam Young. A couple reasons. I think you're buying at an all-time high. His average IPO has been like 644. You're buying him at an all-time high price based on a performance last week, which I think could have been like, he's one of those guys I can feel like put so much effort and focus into Augusta in his second time there and really performed well. He was in contention like the whole way. He was like very close and just couldn't get it done. That's a little bit stressful. I know he's got Webb's caddy. I know that he shot an opening round 63 here last year. But after that, 3 consecutive rounds where he failed to break 70, still finished for the T3 performance, but probably should have won this event last year. even so, I don't think this is a great course fit for him. Even though he finished third, it's weird to say, but it's a course that I think somewhat mitigates and neutralizes his best asset and skill set and takes the driver out of his hands a little bit. And I don't love that for Cam Young. You're buying at an all-time high. The public perception is at an all-time high. So that's one guy that I think I'm for sure going to be out on and may actually be looking to short.
Yeah, we are. If he gets to 866, which he's at 745 right now, and could very well get there, it will literally be an all-time high. Otherwise, it is going to be one of the 2 or 3 highest prices ever paid on Cam Young already. The $6 tier: Max Homa, Shane Lowry, Justin Thomas, who we talked about, Tom Kim, who we haven't, Matt Fitzpatrick, and Terrell Hatton. Now, this is a very interesting range at the moment here. These aren't your super elites, Joe, but there are some really good names in this area.
Yeah, 3 of them I actually bet this week. So I bet Tom Kim, I bet Fitz, I bet Hatton. I like all 3 of them. I think this is a great course fit for all 3. Like I mentioned earlier, I think all 3 would be here, elevated event or not. And Tom Kim's an interesting one, man. Like, I really think that Augusta was a hard reset for him. Like, hold the power button for 5 seconds, completely reset the hard drive. It's exactly what he needed because he was devoid of expectation. When you're a debutant at Augusta National, you don't have expectations anymore. You're completely stripped away of all that, and you're just going there. And he got to play a practice round with Tiger and Rory and Bernard, and just absolutely have probably one of the best weeks of his life. And he had a great performance on top of that. So I think expectations were maybe weighing on Tom a little bit. He had his best ball striking week of the entire year, going to a place where he has a great course fit. He's won in North Carolina. I'm in.
I'm just interested, right? I just can't wait to watch. I mean, the entire conversation of what everyone has said about Tom Kim since he broke onto the scene last summer, like, this is the best spot for him, right? If you believe all of that chatter and that everyone was like, well, he can't hit it far, but he's an elite ball striker and he can win, like, whatever, right? Like, you've heard this a million times over and over and over again about Tom Kim for a year. Well, here's the spot. So let's see, right? I feel like I just can't wait to see. I want to see what he does. I'm excited for him. All right, the $5 tier, we've got some course history here, thanks to Matt Kuchar at 556, Russell Henley, Sam Burns, Corey Connors off a very disappointing miscut at the Masters, Joe, Tommy Fleetwood, Siwoo, JT Poston, Jay Rose. Where are we headed?
I like Connors. We'll see where that price point gets, but I think this is a great spot for him as well.
It's a pretty sneaky buy low, yeah.
Yeah, and
this is a great spot for him.
2 weeks after a win, I mean, and all of a sudden he's no longer.
Three rounds ago he won. 3 rounds ago.
3 rounds ago, yeah, he was unbelievable. And now, after a brutal miscut, we get him at a decent price. Henley, I'm not there on, although I see it. Kuchar, I feel like it's a little bit inflated this week. Have some interest in Siwoo because he just does magical things on Pete Dye courses, but I think Connors is probably the buy right here.
Siwoo has been like way more consistent than he's ever been in his career, and he still has the upside. Like, this is a very strong stat profile of just like above average floor. He's an above average player at his floor, and then his ceiling is winning the golf tournament, which is that's like, if you just gave me this stat profile, like, and promised me this for the next like 5, I would just invest so much money in whatever this golfer. Like, this is such a good little stat profile.
Yeah, Wyndham, Sony, like this place fits right in that.
Yep, for sure. How about a little bit? I mean, I can refresh here, but like Xander Xander's the 5th ranked golfer, off to a very slow start in the cash market. Haven't heard much chatter about him this week. He's down here. Keegan's here. Ricky Fowler's back in action. How about some of these guys? Like, Ricky's the prototype of the guy who was playing well but didn't play in the Masters. What do we do with them?
Yeah, Ricky's still a bit of an unknown for me. I do feel like his popularity always brings his price up a little bit. Xander's an interesting one, man. Number 5 in the pre-rank. It looks like he recently got it bumped just above $7, but it just seems like solid but flatlined. Like, I haven't seen like the boost that I want to see out of Xander and any juice in the tank, but top 10 at the Masters, top 10 at Phoenix. He played okay at the Players. Like he's kind of just doing his thing and shooting 2-3 under par every day. But we haven't really seen him on a weekend like up around the lead in a long time. So I worry that maybe we're sleeping on him a little bit this week, and you can get a nice option for him.
He's a really fascinating jock market golfer just because I feel like he is so on brand that there's not much to squeeze out of him in any way.
Yeah.
Like 10 starts and 8.5 positive ROI. Like that's great. That's awesome. But it's like there's just not enough juice for the risk in case you get this week here, like in case you get the Tournament of Champions where he's horrible or whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just I don't know, man. It's just he's so on brand and there's not enough like pop in his game, but everybody knows he's going to finish inside the top 10. It's kind of hard to make any money on him.
I agree. And those guys that you're going to spend $7 a share on, $8 a share on, like you want top fives. Like that's where the juice is, right? It's hard to get that out of a T14 when you're spending 808. Yeah, you might break even or make a buck on it, but the other players around him in that $8 IPO range, I feel like are showcasing a lot more spike potential.
All right, let's run through this quickly because I got to get you out of here. But I think I saw you were on Gary Woodland this week. He's at $3.96. Any other kind of longer shots that you'd be willing to fill up your penny stocks with?
Yeah, I do like Gary Woodland. I think Keegan is kind of underpriced this week. I don't know where he's at exactly right now. Denny's another guy that I bet coming into this week. I think is a good potential and a good course fit for him. There are a couple of guys maybe a bounce back at. What do we do with Webb? Like $4 a share. He seemed to show like a flash of a sign.
I argued if you want to just invest in Webb Simpson at any point in the next 5 years, you just have to do it right now. Like I think this is the last crack. I think you get him. He's seriously. He's playing well, or at least well enough, better than he has been. He gets to go to like the best course for him, and he gets to rub it in Cam Young and Paul Tesori's face. And I want no parts after this, but if you want to get in now, this is your last call.
Yeah, if you had him for his last 3 starts, you're up 320%. So he's had 2 big spikes in there at the Valspar and at the API. We'll see. This is his jam, so we'll see if he can get it done.
All right, I'm gonna let Joe get out of here. Joe, go do your thing. Get your bids in and rock away. So Joe is gonna go get involved in the market. He is going to show. Are you at like 7 consecutive wins in a row? What is happening? Have you lost like
6.
in 2023? Yeah,
6 consecutive last week. I think 12th or 13th on the leaderboard. So Brooks and Rahm, that'll do it.
You had Brooks and Rahm. You had Sam Bennett
for like $2. Yeah.
Yeah. That was some. Adam Scott played well, I believe. Cam Young was in.
Cam Young.
Yeah.
Yep. Ryan Fox made me some money too. It was a good week.
Yeah, it was a very good week. So Joe is going to go and try to make some more money this week, and then we'll check in with him in a couple of minutes and see what his portfolio is and what your portfolio looks like. So by my clock, it's 8:54 p.m. Eastern time. So we've got about 6 minutes to go until this IPO is finished, and the bids are coming in hot and heavy. I'll take you the rest of the way. If you want to get involved in this or in the props market, POWER. That is the code you are looking for. POWER. There's a link in the description to get involved. All right, here we go. Let's unveil the big board. And we've got our first golfer over $10 per share. And it is Scotty Scheffler. $10 a share is 12th or better. So if you think that's what you're asking, right? Scotty at $10 a share to finish 12th or better. He routinely is $10 or more in this market. He was $11.95 at the Masters last week. Scotty Scheffler on the move. Jon Rahm, $9.35. Jon Rahm, obviously coming off the win last week. Patrick Cantlay, $9.33. These three are creating a tier of their own. Because the next golfer, there's not even a golfer in the $8 range right now. It's Colin Morikawa at $7.99. So to put that into perspective, that's asking Colin Morikawa to finish 18th or better. If you can stomach that, you're a buyer on Colin Morikawa at $7.99, T10 at the Masters, T13 at the Players, T6 at Riviera, a winner in 3 of his last 4 markets. Cam Young, here we go. We're steaming $7.59 for Cam Young. He's less than $1 away from his all-time high. Joe mentioned it, played well here last year, got off to a really hot start. ended up finishing in third place. Victor Hovland, 755. Victor's been trending, hasn't he? Victor's been a winner in 3 straight cash markets, API T10, Players T3, Masters T7. Jordan Spieth, here we go, our defending champion. Let's go see what his price was last year. RBC Heritage last year, oh boy, $499. Fresh off that miscut at the Masters, everybody was like, oh, well, that was the litmus test. He was $499. He won't be $499 this year. $751 as of right now, full $1.20 over his fair value. But he has been a winner in 4 straight cash markets, 3 of them over 100% ROI. Xander is catching a little bit of steam. 750 with Sungjae, Max Homa, and Justin Thomas rounding out the $7 range. We didn't talk much about Tony Finau. 699 as of right now. He's been a loser in 3 out of his last 4. The Players Championship, he literally broke you even. And then Phoenix before that, he gained you 1%. So that's 5 in a row of not really great. If you've been investing in Tony Finau for basically the last 10, I don't think you've been happy with the results. That's basically since his win in Houston. Let me refresh the board and see what kind of movement we're getting here. 8:57 p.m. Eastern time. We've got about 2 or 3 minutes to go. Scotty Scheffler might end up being our most expensive golfer here. 10-18. Cantlay, 958. John Rahm, 952. So is Rahm going to finish third in the market? We haven't seen that in quite some time. Let's go a little bit further down the board and see what value we can find. Talked a little bit about Siwoo Kim. He's $5.44. That asks Siwoo to finish about 30th or better for Siwoo. He has been struggling a little bit in the jock market. -7% at the Masters, -46 at Valero, but won you money at the Players Championship. This obviously another peak die course. Yeah, here's JT Poston. Got a pretty bad pre-rank, 65th, but he is already up to $5.16, so he's well over his fair value. He's got 3 top 10s in his last 4 trips to Harbor Town. Who else? Adam Scott, $4.31 for this week. That's about $1.50 below his fair value. JJ Spawn on paper, should be a great spot for him. Hasn't played super well. Right at his fair value, about $4.25. Gary Woodland only 401. Aaron Rye, that's a guy I like, 370. Let's go to the second page real quick, see what we can find. Kevin Kisner, 245. Very cheap. He's been struggling. Akshay, 281. Akshay's been playing well and is not as wild off the tee as his swing would leave you to believe. And then Lanto, who's been playing some good golf between here and the Corn Ferry, trying to get back into shape, 121% ROI at Valero the last time we saw him. Okay, let's refresh the big board and see what we got here because this thing is about to shut down. Scotty Scheffler continues to burn here. 1057. That is asking Scotty to finish 11th, 10th or better. 11th would basically break him even. 10th or better, top 10 on Scotty to get to that price. Then there's a gap. Rahm 977. So Rahm did pass Patrick Cantlay. Are we done?
Shut her down, buddy.
Wow. Shut it down. IPO is over. John Rahm, I mean, unless something crazy happened, John Rahm was not the most expensive guy in the market, which feels like.
And he went for like 950, I think.
He went for at least 970. His fair value was 978.
Okay,
we might have nailed exactly. $10. Wow. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to let the dust settle here. We're going to let the pricing get updated, and we will see what the final information was. We'll hear who Joe got in his portfolio. We'll hear who you guys in the chat got. Oh, okay. I see the final pricing. Wow. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Get to that in just a second. All right, Joe. Putting his winning streak on the line with what portfolio?
Pounded the mid-range, Rick. I totally avoided the guys at the top. All in sort of this like $6, low $7 range. Fitzpatrick, Tom Kim, Sam Burns, Siwoo Kim. I feel like I have some win equity in those guys, and I basically need like a 23rd place finish or better out of the majority of them. I feel good about getting one of them inside like a T6 or better this week. So moving down, the rest of my portfolio is built on like low $3 range guys. So I had Woodland, Svensson, Willett, Brandon Wu at 299 and Matt Neesmith at 273. So 9 guys total. Basically sort of that like B minus tier maybe in terms of players, and then I went sort of fishing for the guys at the bombs. A lot of those like Wu and Neesmith, I need like a 53rd or better. So you're just looking for a made cut out of those guys.
Fitzpatrick, Tom Kim, Sam Burns, Siwoo Kim, Gary Woodland, Adam Svensson, Danny Willett, Brandon Wu, Matthew Neesmith for the 6 winning streak. 6 weeks active, going for 7. Joe's portfolio. Okay, I like that. Let's see what the guys in the chat got. Eddie got Sahith, Matt Wallace. I like that. Wyndham Clark, Troy Merritt, Dylan Fratelli. JG Funk got Victor, Hatton. It says Kim. That could be Tom or Siwoo. Fleetwood, Burns, Lowry, Keegan, Bezadenhout, and Woodland. Kevin 89, Cam Young. Whoa, I like this. Cam Young, Morikawa, Spieth, Fowler, Connors, Keegan, Kuchar, Sam Stevens, Poston, Ryder, and Ben Martin. Love that. Okay. And let's see what else we got here. Woodland, Burns, Siwoo, and Fitzy for Brett. And then Brent got Handsome Adam. That's Scott. Power, Denny's Grand Slam, Captain Kirk, Harris English, Weber, Hubba Hubba. That's Mark Hubbard, Garrick Higo, Walker, Landry, and Wes Bryan. All right. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck. Here's the final pricing, Joe. And I'll get us out of the way here. Scotty Scheffler, 1057, John Rahm, 980. That is the cheapest of the year, of the calendar year. He was 966 at Tournament of Champions. And then before that, he was 875 at the Tour Championship. So it's been a while since we've seen this price.
Golf's so weird, man. The guy wins the Masters and then goes for the cheapest price he's been all year.
I mean, he's won everything, and he's just went for the cheapest price he's been all year.
Look, if you got him for that price, I think you got a good buy. We mentioned we had some concerns that I think are valid, but listen, he's on top of the world. There seems to be no slowing him down.
A late run on Xander got him up to 835. So that asks Xander to finish like 16th or better, and he probably will, right? Like he will probably finish between 9th and 16th. And he will probably make you a couple of like a buck a share. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, yeah I get it. Like, I would take 8% ROI for eternity. So I guess what am I arguing about?
Right.
Victor Collin. I'm interested to see what Homa does, right? He got a pretty good pre-rank, a 6th pre-rank, a disappointing Masters, but he's been playing well outside of that. I don't think he caught a lot of steam this week. I'm just kind of interested to see what Homa ends up doing.
So am I. He was the one that I was so torn on all week. Like as I sat there and I bet Fitzpatrick and I considered betting Thomas and I'm betting Kim and Burns and I'm sitting there and I just my eyes just keep moving to Max Homa's name right with them. And I'm like, I've been a believer all year that Max Homa is better than all of these guys. Why am I not taking him? So we'll be interested to see. He just hasn't quite figured out Augusta National yet, which I'm not going to penalize him for. I'm not ready to say that he can't play in majors. He's just been the last 6 majors he's played, and he is a different Max Homa now. So anything before that, I'm willing to write off. Was kind of surprised, though, to be honest, of Sungjae. Going up there like ahead of Cam Young. I thought Cam Young was going to be so popular this week, and Sungjae definitely got a lot of love late.
787 for Sungjae. Just give me all the Jordan Spieth right now. 763. That's 18th or better. It's like basically 18th or better for the guy who has gone 4th, 3rd, 19th, 4th, won this event last year. Metrics are clean. Like, okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Give me all that. Let's see what else we got here. Guys we talked about. Hatton went for 649. He did not hit his fair value, Joe, 50 cents below.
Yep.
What else do we have here? Siwoo went for, where did I just see Siwoo? 548, missed his fair value by about 50 cents.
What do you think of Thigala? Not a great fit for him, right?
I don't think so.
That's what I kind of thought too, but he's just been showing up everywhere.
Yeah, I do like, he's another guy who has, the bar was pretty low, but he has gotten more consistent.
Right.
And I think this might be, I'll tell you what, if he plays well this week, I'll be super impressed, and I'll never doubt him again, because I think that this is probably the worst golf course on tour for him.
Okay. Fair
Now,
enough.
if he plays well, then because this is kind of how I've thought about Cam Young last year too, right? And then
Yeah.
he goes out and shoots a 63 in the opening round, and then I look back and it's like, okay, so Cam Young plays well at Augusta National, he plays well at Country Club of Jackson, he plays well at Harbor Town, he plays well. It's like all these different places, and I just tip my cap and say, okay, maybe there's not a place that. So if Sahith will end me saying this if he goes out and plays well.
I think they're while both I kind of liken, I think are very similar as well. I think Cam Young's way more accurate off the tee than Sahith, right?
Cam Young has like an elite skill set with like three other really good skill sets. Sahith has like four okay skill sets. Like,
Yeah, he's like
it's
super powerful and long, but with like Colin Morikawa's driving accuracy percentage.
yeah. So like, yes, there's a big right.
Sick.
They're not the same guy, but I love Sahith. But I'll be
But
interested to
you're
see how
but
they
you're
play.
right to the point where they're both very aggressive players. So there is a way when you see that 63 out of Cameron Young that you can take driver out here and be super aggressive and shoot a really low round, which is if the winning score is -12, that may be all you need to find yourself in the top 5 on the weekend and then make another run. There's a way and an avenue to do it because if you're able to do it successfully, you're going to have 125 yards in versus the guys who are taking 4-iron off the tee who have 175. So there's a very advantageous if you can get it right. I just worry he sprays it a little too much.
I'm very excited. Like I love this week. I think it's so different, right? I like to see these guys challenged in a different way. So it should be a really fun watch when this thing kicks off on Thursday morning. And then I think nothing for Zurich.
Yeah, we think nothing for Zurich. We'll double check on that. But I was thinking about this earlier today. Yeah, they did not have a contest last year, so I think that we're off. I'm wondering we may get pick'em stuff. I see Austin asked if
Oh
anyone
yeah,
had
you
any
know what?
pick'em
That's a good
plays.
idea.
I got 2 for you, Austin. Adam Scott made cut. He's like -160 to make the cut. I think that's a good one to put in your prop picks. And I actually like the Cameron Young over 68. He's got to shoot 4 under to beat that. I think that he shoots worse than that. So those
There
are
you
my
go.
2.
Fire it up. Use code POWER if you haven't gotten your bonus yet. And otherwise, we'll figure out what's going on for next week. Yeah, maybe we'll talk props. I don't know. We'll figure out what's happening.
Yeah.
Big thanks to Joe. You can find him on Twitter at TorPicks, and you can find me at RickRunGood. This has been your Jock Market Power Hour for this week's RBC Heritage. Good luck.